Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
She is probably one of the biggest artists in the world right now.
There's something to discover around every corner.
What does this inspire to you? What is the thing that strikes you?
Today on Spotlight, a book that details the treasures inside Forest Park. Find out what you might be missing. Plus, a unique art exhibit with close to 1,200 stainless steel spheres. And then meet the family behind Noboleis Winery, why this area is historic. But first, demystifying birding for beginners and learning about birds in your backyard. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
It's a European starling. They're native to Europe. They were brought here about 100 years ago. They compete with woodpeckers for nesting holes. I'm Joan Strassman. I'm the Charles Rebstock Professor of Biology at Washington University. This is a book I've wanted to write for about 30 years. Slow birding talks about 5 places I bird regularly in the St. Louis area. Forest Park, of course, is one of them. And it just introduces 16 really common species of birds that when you read the book, you'll learn more about these very common birds and about the ornithologists that made the discoveries. One of the great American city parks is only a mile from my home. It's called Forest Park, a bit of a misnomer because only a few corners of it are heavily wooded. Forest Park is big enough for many kinds of birds. If I spent more time there, no doubt I would see more of them. The eye candy that everyone looks for are the warblers. So the warblers are little tiny insectivorous birds with small beaks, and they move fast and they have brilliant colors. There's Blackburnian, chestnut-sided, your black-throated green. St. Louis is cardinal country. We wear our iconic bird on our caps and our t-shirts. It bands us together for the favorite sport of St. Louis's baseball. Some people seem to be in a stupor so deep that they do not notice the birds around them. When they come to and look with amazement at the natural world, the northern cardinal is often the first bird they notice. Most people that have been birding for a while mostly bird with sound. I love to hear the sounds. I love to just stop for a moment and listen and see what birds I can hear at a given moment. American robins are for everyone. They're colorful, ever-present, and often on the ground where even toddlers can see them. But just because robins are common does not mean they're not worth our attention. They might be the best bird of all for learning to really watch birds. The kind of amazing feast for birders is migration, and spring migration, I think, above all. We feel full of hope and new energy. Just be out in the woods and look at eBirds, see what other people have seen. Late March and right through mid-May is just the fantastic time, and really early May is the best. The St. Louis Audubon Society has a birdathon. It's a fundraiser where you try to see a lot of birds. A lot of people learn the birds slowly and carefully on their own, just using bird books and apps. See if you have a local Audubon Society or a nature center to just watch the birds. To me, slow birding is watching the birds, staying close to home or in a place that you happen to be, and feel as enriched by seeing a red-winged blackbird, which is singing in the background, or a cardinal or a robin, once you understand more about them.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
It has been called the crown jewel of St. Louis, but Forest Park is more like a collection of gems. And author Carolyn Miller has spent the past 2 years taking inventory.
There's something to discover around every corner.
At 1,300 acres, Forest Park is so large, few people have seen it all. But as an avid runner, Carolyn Miller has seen most of it, which is why Reedy Press approached her to create a book of Forest Park walking tours, a pathfinder to curiosities, familiar and obscure.
I think my favorite little gem is the Spanish cannon. It was actually given to the city of St. Louis by the War Department in 1900. It was forged during the Spanish-American War. And St. Louis didn't have a place to put it. And so they stuck it in the horse stables in Forest Park. And it sat in there until somebody wrote an op-ed in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch in the voice of the cannon, kind of complaining about living with these horses and how it needed a place to live. And so in 1901, the city of St. Louis built a little area in Forest Park for the Spanish cannon to sit.
The book maps out 7 historic tours and 1 nature walk. Many points of interest along those routes are the things visitors see all the time, but have no idea about the story behind them.
I love the visitor center. It used to be a streetcar stop, a streetcar pavilion. The Cabinet House, that's the first brick farmhouse west of the Mississippi.
And then there are the less familiar sites, like the joyful Musicians Memorial, the somber Korean War Memorial, and the baronial Vandevenner Place gates.
These gates were the entrance to a very posh, ritzy St. Louis neighborhood in the late 1800s. And so all that was left of it were these gates, and they moved them to Forest Park so that they wouldn't just disappear. Kind of a weird story, but they are beautiful to look at.
There's a time in each year that we always hold dear, good old summertime.
Most St. Louisans know the 2 remaining permanent structures from the World's Fair are the flight cage at the zoo and the art museum. But the book also points out other ornaments in the park that are part of the fair's legacy.
So many different really classic things in Forest Park were influenced by the World's Fair or purchased with funds from the World's Fair. I'm thinking of the Apotheosis of St. Louis, of course, the sculpture of Thomas Jefferson in the lobby of the History Museum. During the fair, they had a waterfall flowing down Art Hill, and it was called the Cascades. And so after the fair ended, they decided to build a waterfall sort of in tribute to that original waterfall. And that fall is actually the start of the water system in Forest Park.
Well, and on that score, a lot of people probably don't realize, because you can't really see it anymore, that River des Peres runs through Forest Park.
That was my favorite fact that I uncovered, because I had no idea. They channeled it into these giant concrete pipes and pushed it underground so that when the city hosted the World's Fair in 1904, nobody could see it, which I just thought that was a really cool fact.
Like so many St. Louisans, Carolyn Miller feels a personal connection to Forest Park. It's where she met her husband, and like a lot of brides, she used the park as a backdrop for her wedding pictures.
I took some on the bridge to Picnic Island, and I think I was the 3rd bride in line for that bridge. But I took a lot of them in Kennedy Forest, and there were no brides around at all. I did get a lot of burrs in my wedding dress, so that was a problem.
In the good old summertime.
The history of Forest Park is the history of us, a collection of personal recollections, touchstones, and traditions enjoyed by the generations before us to be enjoyed by the generations that will follow. And now, thanks to Carolyn Miller's hard work, for the rest of us, learning about its treasures is just a walk in the park.
The fact that you can go to Forest Park and see a Monet and a polar bear all in one day for free is just incredible. I mean, I think not a lot of cities can say that. We're just so lucky to have it.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Narcissus Garden is a monumentally scaled installation by Japanese contemporary artist Yayoi Kusama. The intention behind the work is to invite the viewer in, to sort of envelop the viewer in the installation. So we encourage viewers to come in, to traverse the pathways that we've set out with the installation. It's comprised of almost 1,200 stainless steel reflective spheres. So there's going to be moments of reflection in there, and that's where the Narcissus aspect of the title comes in. I think with an installation like this, it's a little bit more like being out in the park. You're kind of one with the space. So you're here, you're in the trails and you're looking at the artwork and you're really seeing that meeting point of art and nature. And I think with an installation like this, it does the same thing. There's an interaction there. And I think inviting our visitors into an environment where they can sort of get lost in these pieces, feeling very, vital, but also insignificant at the same time, reflect what's on the outside. So you're seeing yourself, but you're also seeing the environment in your surroundings as well. Kusama was born in Japan in a rural town, Matsumoto, and she began painting when she was 10 years old. And she, at that time, was experiencing hallucinations. And she described it as these almost enveloping dots and lights. And I think that motif of the dot has kind of come through her work to now. She's now working in her 90s and she continues to use that motif and that symbol of the dot in her work. She also describes this use of the dot as a way to manage anxiety and overcome fear. She was really interested in the restaging of the self-obliteration and just kind of getting lost in those dots. And in a way, Narcissus Garden reflects that same idea, where you've got this series of mirrored balls where you can really get lost in it. So in a way, it's kind of how she felt about some of her early paintings that she had made when she moved to New York. She is probably one of the biggest artists in the world right now. She's a very significant, celebrated artist. This installation is the first large-scale installation of her work in St. Louis.
Meet the Latinx artists later on Spotlight.
There's beauty out here. There's God's beauty out here. And it's also spiritual. It just really brings you, for our winery, a very comfortable feeling, a very peaceful feeling, a very warm feeling. We're family-owned, family-grown.
My mom is really the heart behind this place. And it is all about welcoming people and making them feel, because we're family run, we really do feel like everybody that comes through the door is like an extension of our family.
My mom and dad purchased this beautiful property and started planting grapes. When you plant a vineyard, it takes about 3 or 4 years for it to produce anything. So it gave us some time to figure out what we wanted to do out here.
One of my favorite memories, my best friend and I spent the day with my grandparents, and they had just bought the property, took us out here, and we helped my grandfather map out the tasting room building. So we did the tape measuring and like all of that with him. So that was a lot of fun.
It's beautiful. Augusta is kind of a little hidden gem. And so we decided we wanted to take those grapes and start making wine.
It's an agricultural area, with vineyards being a focus in this area with the America's first AVA.
We're in the AVA area, which is the American Viticulture area, the first recognized wine country in the United States.
Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the water came through, it dried up, and it left this soil that was just rich in nutrients. And so it all settled right in this whole valley. And that's what makes this area so great.
Where the grapes were grown is important for the wine that you're creating. And I love that aspect of it. I love that what you're creating it's just as important how it was grown as how it's produced.
We want people to know that you don't have to go to Napa or Sonoma to get good wine. This region has come a long way.
While it is only about 45 minutes away from St. Louis, it's a slower pace. You know, it's definitely a destination, weekend away type setting. With all the wineries, there's a lot of like cool things to do. And then, you know, you've got antique shops and art galleries. We kind of accent everything with, you know, a farm to table, upscale dining type situation.
What we do here and just wine in general is why it's so easy to have a passion for it. I think that Missouri wine is having a moment maybe right now that it hasn't had in the past.
Every year we've grown, and every year we've gotten bigger, and the production has gotten bigger.
When I opened Root, I got the chance to take over the wine list. You know, we incorporate wines from everywhere, France, Spain, but then we also have some mainstays from our local vineyards too. We love Noboleis, that's one of our favorites. They come in and they order a bottle of their own wine, and it's just really cool to like make that relationship. It's supporting small businesses. You know, I want people to support my small business, and why wouldn't I support, you know, their small businesses as well? So it kind of like builds a community. And I think that that's really important in today's world.
It's a really great community, and everyone's willing to share and collaborate, and that's kind of what we're all about.
To be able to watch this business grow from this small family business, it's just been so fun.
We feel really blessed to be in a beautiful place like this, and so it's natural to want to share that and to say, hey, come on in and we'll feed you, we'll get you some wine, and, you know, go and enjoy the beauty.
This story brought to you by Educate.Today.
My name is Sheila Arnold, and I am a full-time professional storyteller and teaching artist. I tell folktales and fairy tales. I write a lot of stories, and I love telling historical stories. A lot of my stories tend to be stories of social justice. I'm telling you what I see in my head, hopefully telling it in such a way so that you will see it, and as you're listening to it, that you'll see it with me. That, to me, is the best way to have storytelling. The greatest gift is when someone comes up to me afterwards and they say, that story reminded me of, and they have to tell me that story. Or the time somebody comes up and they say, I have to think differently now. I have a very loose format of processing. One of the things that happens is a story grabs me and it says, tell me now. And it won't let me go until I tell it. And then sometimes stories take forever, waiting for whatever the key is. Storytelling has the ability to change people's thinking, but it does it in a very subversive way. So I can tell a once upon a time and everybody relaxes because they know this kind of story. And then I switch it and I move it and they go, ooh, wasn't prepared for that lesson. Wasn't prepared for you to challenge me like that. Storytelling is not just about us. It's about the large universal truths. It's why we need a large breadth of stories. So come get some more stories. Come have a better life.
Learn more about Sheila and explore storytelling in its many forms with videos for homeschool and classroom use at Educate.Today. Keyword storytelling.
You just never know where that spark is going to come from.
You're putting a human touch to everything through the vehicle of art. We give them the ability to hope.
This is Soulard Art Gallery, and this is our pet show. Would you love me as a pet? I love pets. That's why they put me into being the curator of this. We always try to have it around the pet parade time. Everyone, it seems, has pets, loves pets, but not necessarily dogs and cats. So when you go to look at the art today, you will find all sorts of animals. We have fish, we have a moose, we have bears, we have octopus, we have alligators. But of course, if you are a dog or a cat lover, we have plenty of those too. And you could go to one of the rooms of the resident artist and see more dogs and cats. Soulard Art Gallery is stationed here in Soulard. We have a lot of visitors who come in town and out of town. We have 13 residence artists right now, and they are not in our exhibit. This is all for local artists. The people who come in with their artwork are so excited about being in the show because it's really, really fun. We have all sorts of different media. We have mixed media. We have ink. We have watercolor. We have oil. We also have textiles. This year we decided to take in donations for stray rescue. We got a lot of money, which is exactly what stray rescue needs. And since it's the pet show, it was the perfect time to do that. We are accepting donations throughout the show. The show is open until March 24th. We have a tip jar out on our desk, and please, if you come in to see the show, we would ask you to give a donation to help these animals that are in need at Stray Rescue. This exhibit lasts until March 24th. To learn more about this show and our future shows, please visit www.soulardartgallery.com.
You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
So my background as an artist is I am a photographer, and I also I make things with my hands. I make sculptures, jewelry, I paint.
I graduated from architecture school in Colombia, but I was always interested in color and art techniques. So I have been since 2012 an artist.
You know, when I started my career, when I started business, in my family, art was not considered a career. It was a hobby. So when I moved to St. Louis, I decided to do my art career.
I've always been interested through my work to highlight the need for representation and the need to understand migration as a human need, especially in today's state. All four of the artists that are working on this project, we all belong to this group of artists in St. Louis called Latinx Art Network.
The Latinx Arts Network is a group of Hispanic or Latinx artists and artist allies. The purpose of the group is to support each other and also help create opportunities for our artists and our arts community.
Yes, we formed our committee in one of the Latinx meetings. We were talking about things that we wanted to do, and somebody brought up that they would like a mural, and I think it sparked all of our interests.
What inspired the mural? There was some narrative on the news about children separated from parents at the border. We felt that we want to do something to change this stereotype of the immigrants and people at the border.
Through the mural, I intended to make a female child, be important and take center stage.
Our girl is an Afro-Latin looking at the sky and looking for hope. That's why we have a blue, bright sky.
We introduced items, for example, African baskets, which we're very much aware of the African culture being a predecessor of all of our cultures in Latin America.
When we got the location Del Mar, we were aware of the African American community, so we included the baskets because we want to just honor the area.
We also have a flower that is native to Missouri, I believe.
I always feel that flower signifies the cycle of life and the beauty, and to know that the beauty is not forever and you go to the earth again and then you're reborn again.
We include some papel picado, which is very typical from Mexico. It's very festive, it looks like fiesta. We include the trolley is there. It's because it's kind of fun. People can take a picture, trying to get into the trolley, and San Luis Arc. Those two elements, kind of to make, like this, the stamp, the mural is in San Luis.
One of the characteristics of both the iguana and the monarch butterfly, both species that are able to adapt to different situations, different weathers, different environments. So we thought, how about that? Because we have those species in our countries and they reflect on that ability to blend in, ability to live in different environments.
We had so much feedback. Everybody that walked by was always saying, "Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for doing it."
One guy in particular said that he loved the fact that the girl in the mural was of darker skin. He loved that, and he said because he doesn't see that ever.
We hope that the community will continue to feel embraced by the message of the mural and that they will stop by and take photographs, take their children, their students, and basically have a conversation. What does this inspire to you? How do you see it? What is the thing that strikes you?
No matter how different we are or how diverse we are, it's always something that brings us together. I think it's some level of loving life, happiness. It's always colorful.
Like I say, por amor al arte, for the love of art.
Next week, the It Girls of English Society and their controversial decisions. Plus, a woman-owned ag tech company. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.